All right, Ari Meirov here from PFF at My Sports Update on Twitter. Really looking forward to doing some great things here with the company. Excited to be with PFF and the rest of the team. Wanted to hop on here to talk about Xavien Howard, the star cornerback for the Miami Dolphins, who is unhappy with his contract, who skipped mandatory minicamp, and as training camp gets very close, will he show up and why is he unhappy? A lot of you on Twitter, a lot of you on social media do not understand what is going on. He has 4 years left. He just signed a very big deal in 2019. Why is he doing this? So I have Brad Spielberger on with me from PFF. He knows the salary cap. He knows contracts inside and out. One of the best at what he does. Brad, explain to everyone why Xavien Howard is doing this and explain to everyone exactly what his contract looks like, what the structure is, and why he actually has a point in what he is doing based off the numbers there with his deal.
Yeah, well, welcome aboard, Ari. Happy to be a part of your first piece of content here at PFF. Yeah, so, I think at a 30,000-foot view, when folks look at Howard's deal and you hop on overthecap.com and you kind of see that he has the 6th highest average per year or, average annual value contract among corners, which seems great at a glance. And when he signed his deal in 2019, not too long ago, it was the highest actually, among all corners at the time. But I think when you get into the weeds a little bit, you recognize that, yes, he signed for $15.05 million per year, but he was topping Josh Norman's $15 million per year, who signed 3 years prior to Howard. So he barely eclipsed that number, 3 years after the fact. And we know as, contracts come in, the markets grow a lot more than that generally. So, he gets to get the 5 years, $75 million, that's the total, and that gets us there that per year average. But in fully guaranteed dollars, only about 27 million. Not a substantial amount for when the contract's 75 and you see 27, about a third of that deal fully guaranteed. And then a year later, Jalen Ramsey signs for 20 million per year, which is about 33% more than Howard. So, it's just a situation where when Howard signed, I think they could have done a better job of analyzing the market, recognizing that Ramsey was going to sign for a lot more money, very shortly thereafter. And so, yes, it's only been 2 years. Yes, he has 4 years left on his deal. But, 28-year-old corner, coming off a first-team All-Pro season. And I think it's justified that he says, hey, look, I want, more guarantees at least, if not, more money.
Right. So Howard, we have to mention this. He's entering this year where this is the final year where he has guaranteed money. And, since he signed that contract, there are a number of cornerbacks who topped him, including his own teammate in Byron Jones. You mentioned Jalen Ramsey, who blew it out of the water. There's also Marlon Humphrey. There's also Tre'Davious White. There's also Darius Slay. A lot of different quarterbacks have not just topped him, but gotten much better deals. Let's talk about this Dolphins roster for a second, because I mentioned Byron Jones. When you look at those two contracts, people think that Byron is getting $16.5 million per year. Xavien is getting $15 million per year. What's the big difference there? But in reality, those two contracts are very different. Explain that.
Yeah, that's right. The two deals are very different. And one main component that should be addressed is the fact that Byron Jones signed as a free agent externally from Miami, and so they had to include more favorable contract terms in order to entice him to join the roster. But Xavien Howard has no reason to care about that. And so the big difference there is that Xavien Howard's deal had about 27 million fully guaranteed at signing, with 46 million in total guarantees. Whereas Byron Jones' deal had 46 million fully guaranteed at signing and about 55 million in total guarantees. So to break that down a little bit, total guarantees and fully guaranteed, the numbers you always see thrown out there, the difference is, there's a lot of differences, but in one simplistic view, fully guaranteed at signing means it's guaranteed for skill, injury, and cap, and a club can't cut that player without owing them some of that money. Total guarantees also includes money that is either guaranteed for injury only or can vest later on, so it's not guaranteed at signing, but becomes guaranteed down the road. So an important example right in Miami, transpired earlier this offseason with Kyle Van Noy, where he had a $12.5 million salary for 2021, which was guaranteed for injury only. So it would fall under that total guaranteed bucket. And they were able to cut him before the season began and pay him none of that. So, those differences are huge. And then, of course, beyond that, Xavien Howard has nothing guaranteed after 2021. So the rest of his money going forward is non-guaranteed money. And, Miami has kind of set a precedent this offseason that, it's fair for Xavien Howard to want more assurances. I mean, they cut Kyle Van Noy. They also trade Shaq Lawson, another 2020 free agent, to Houston, and they trade Eric Flowers, another 2020 free agent, back to the Washington football team. So for him to want more money or just to get more guarantees, fully guaranteed or otherwise, is pretty justified when you look at how Miami has operated this offseason.
Right, and Howard has really been one of the top cornerbacks in the NFL, right? Last year, he led the league in interceptions with 10. He had the most pass breakups in the league with 20. He's very valuable to the Brian Flores defense. And just today, Darius Slay, who is getting paid more than him, he tweeted out that what Howard does in that New England defense is just insane. And Slay would know because he was in Detroit with Matt Patricia. So he understands that defense and the system and the concept of that. And he was saying, listen, what Xavien Howard is doing there for Brian Flores is unbelievable. And he agrees that he should be getting a better deal. But on the other hand, looking from Miami's perspective, why would they not want to do this, right? He has 4 years left on his contract, and front offices around the league, when there are 4 years left on a contract or 3 years left on a contract, they don't want to touch that. And the reason for it is because if they fix one guy's contract with that many years left, then another player could do the same thing next year, and it could create a domino effect, right? We saw this in Houston with DeAndre Hopkins. He had 3 years left on his deal, and he did not want to redo his deal, and eventually he was traded away on a trade that really wasn't fair, but well, that's a different topic. But, we've seen this happen with other front offices. So the Dolphins have, and it's important to mention, the Dolphins have gotten trade calls on Howard. They got it last year. I know, I believe the Miami Herald reported on this, and then the Dolphins immediately put out a statement saying it wasn't true. Well, in fact, it was true. They were getting trade calls on him. There are teams right now who are interested in him as well. So this is something that is developing and is worth keeping an eye on. And it's also worth mentioning that Howard has changed agents. He has a new agent now. The guy who did his deal in 2019 is no longer his agent as well. So there are a lot of different factors that are going on over here.
Yeah, absolutely. And to that team point, like you mentioned, they like to maintain precedent. You mentioned the DeAndre Hopkins trade. It was, similar reasons for Stephon Diggs in Minnesota. And look what happened now, different situation. Everyone's unique, but, Danielle Hunter now kind of entered the same situation where he wants a new contract, and, they didn't end up trading him, but kind of redid his contract, brought a bunch of money, up into next year. And so they kind of have an ultimatum they've created for themselves where at the end of this season, they either have to extend him or release him and let him become a free agent. So yeah, 4 years left for Miami. It gets a little scary for them saying, yeah, if we do this for him, then the next guy's going to ask, and the next guy and the next guy. So, that's kind of their perspective on this. And look, they spent a lot of money in free agency as well. They spent the 5th most in total guarantees, since Xavien Howard arrived in Miami. They've been spending, but mostly outside the building, which also might kind of be something in Howard's mind. And so, yeah, he kind of, again, he understands he has 4 years left, but, ranked 4th on PFF's cornerback list, 3rd on the ESPN list that was compiled by asking NFL personnel their thoughts. He's clearly one of the premier corners in the NFL, was 2nd in wins above replacement, per PFF last year. So, he's justified in asking for, at the very least, like Danielle Hunter, perhaps kind of reworking this contract.
Right, and Howard, of course, is a homegrown player. They drafted him in the 2nd round. Teams want to keep those players as long as possible, especially when they turn out to be stars, the way Howard did. One more thing before we let you go. What could be a possible solution here? Obviously, they probably don't want to trade such a star player, a player who's valuable to the defense they run. Of course, they value the secondary so much there, and for Brian Flores' defense, what could be a solution? Will they actually add more money here? Could they do the same thing that New England did last year if Stephon Gilmore just moved some money up so he has more total guarantees?
Yep, that's exactly what I was going to go to. Fitting as another cornerback, in the same division. So the Patriots, what they did when Stephon Gilmore was upset last year, also, very underpaid on his 5-year, $65 million per year deal. They moved $5 million forward into, last year, added to his salary. And I think Miami could probably follow a similar route. I also think, like you mentioned at the top, there's nothing guaranteed beyond this year. So maybe it's also just from Howard's perspective saying, hey, I don't necessarily need more, but I don't want to be subject to the possibility that I could get cut at any moment after this year, and you guys would owe me nothing. So they could also potentially just, guarantee future money, and in that way, it might help them in precedent-wise as well. Say, look, we didn't add any more money, we just went ahead and changed the language and guaranteed it. So I think those are two potential avenues to kind of fix this situation.
All right, so we're going to see what happens here. The situation is all developing. Follow My Sports Update on Twitter for the latest updates. Follow Brad, PFF_Brad, as all this goes on. Training camp is around the corner. We'll see if Xavien Howard shows up. If he doesn't, he's getting fined every day $50,000. Keep updated with everything, and we'll keep you posted.